Welcome back to Just Chattin', and this is the series of videos we do on Thursday and Sunday evenings just for our own entertainment. So for all you Audie fans, he's hibernating. And as you can see, I'm sure I'm bundled up today too because it is cold, even for me, and I like the cold. So I can't blame him for wanting to sleep. However, because we have had no Audie time on these evening videos for a while, again, he's hibernating, it's cold, and he may be a cat, but he's not stupid. He knows the best place for a little cat in the winter is a warm bed. But I was trying to iron sheets yesterday, and I say trying, because as soon as I got the sheets out on the ironing board, Audie decided the ironing board was even warmer than the bed, and decided he was going to help me iron. So I do have a photo for you to make up for the absence of the cat. All right, maybe he'll show up. I don't know. He has not lately. So we are going to take a quick break for the intro, and we will be right back. So, we have something of an intriguing story to take a look at this evening. Now, this story originates with Rob Shuter. It's been picked up by other mainstream media outlets, and I have reservations, as I've mentioned before, about running with whatever it is Rob Shuter says. One of those reservations, and this is probably the chief one, is that he doesn't disclose his sources. These are always unnamed sources, so I'm never able to trace these stories back any further than Shuter himself. But the mainstream media doesn't seem to have a problem with it, so I figure it's worth taking a look at. I also have to say that some of the things that have originated with Shuter have turned out to be correct. Just in fairness to the man, just because I have reservations does not mean that he is not accurately reporting. Just need to throw that out there. As always, all of the sources I am citing are in the video notes. Feel free to check them out for yourselves and make your own judgments. But this one, as I said, this is intriguing. Apparently, Nutmeg, according to these unnamed sources, has come up with a list of demands. And wow, I mean, I'm thinking demands is pretty much an understatement, for what she expects if she is to return to the UK for the Invictus Games this summer. Yeah, right, like the people of the UK are all that anxious to see her coming. So, I have the article here for you. I'm not going to read it out to you. I'm just putting it up on the screen. So feel free to pause the video if you want to read it yourself. It is cited in the video notes. If you want to go back and check the original source yourself, please feel free. The reason I'm not going to read it is because I'm going to go through this point by point. I'm going to take a look at Nutmeg's demand list and see how this stacks up against what we know about Nutmeg. Now, can we actually determine whether or not Nutmeg did throw this list of demands out? No, we can't. We're never going to be able to do that. We are talking about the ex-royals of Montecito. We cannot get a straight story out of them for love or money, so why would we expect this to be any different? Also, I have no idea who these demands have supposedly been presented to. Who is supposed to fill these demands? Who is supposed to take responsibility for instantiating Nutmeg's wish list? No idea. I certainly would imagine at least some of it would be laid at the doorstep of the British taxpayers. Perhaps some of it would be laid at the doorstep of the Invictus Games, but I can certainly tell you that most of it is going to carry a very significant price tag. So let's get started. Number one on Nutmeg's list of demands is 4 floors of the Hyatt Regency be dedicated to her and her people. So, moving aside from whether or not this is a reasonable request, because let's face it, it's not, does it seem reasonable to us that this is something Nutmeg would have asked for? And frankly, that's all I'm looking at on this video. Does this sound like something that Nutmeg would have said, gimme? And I would have to say yes, because we all saw back in 2018 when she wanted to go to the Wimbledon tennis match, and she had a massive number of seats sequestered for her usage so that she and her little coterie of friends could attend the game with breathing room to separate them from the peasants. Yeah, she's done this sort of thing before, and we've all seen it. Furthermore, when she and Harry were at Frogmore Cottage, which is on the grounds of Frogmore House, a large royal estate. In fact, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor are buried there. They had given out instructions to the local residents, in other words, other people who lived on the property, about not talking to them, not approaching them. If they said hi, other people were expected to say hi. They weren't supposed to touch the dogs. They weren't supposed to ask about the putative child, Archie, etc., etc. This whole list of demands so that they could presumably go out and walk their dogs without being harassed by other people who might be on the grounds of a royal property. So we're not talking about just random hoodlums who might be, hanging out on the street corners, smoking cigarettes and whistling at the pretty girls. No. Anybody who was on the Frogmore grounds would have a reason to be there. So we have seen this before. Yes, I would say I do not consider that to be something outside of the realm of a gimme that Nutmeg would be asking for. So, does that sound like an authentic Nutmeg demand to me? Absolutely. So, on a related note, we have the demand that staff are not allowed to look at her. Now, on one hand, of course, we know Nutmeg wants nothing more than to be looked at. This is a woman who cannot go through her life without being looked at. It's her raison d'etre. Well, yeah, but apparently not by the peasants. So, do I find this to be consistent with what we know about her, with the other demands that she's made? Yes, of course. I consider it to be utterly outrageous, in fact, laughable even. But do I think this is something on her list? Sure. I got no trouble believing that. Because, again, going back to the time at Frogmore, if people who lived on the estate weren't allowed to even, walk past them or look at the dogs or look at the putative child. Sure, we've seen this before. Does anybody find this a difficult one to swallow? Well, the thing is that just because we see this as a crazy, over-the-top, unreasonable demand, I just don't think I just don't think Nutmeg sees it that way. So, do I believe this is on her demand list? Sure, I got no problem with that. We've seen this, Oh, I'm sorry, I probably should have mentioned when I was talking about Wimbledon, there was one of the spectators at the tennis match, who was stalked by Nutmeg's security because they believed the person was trying to photograph Nutmeg. Apparently, there was no reason to believe this, except the person was, snapping around the cell phone at a tennis match, and not allowed to photograph her because she was there on her private time. Because, nothing says, "This is my private time, leave me alone," like sequestering a massive section of the bleachers just for yourself. So, I don't have any trouble believing that she made this demand, no matter how freaking crazy it sounds. Next up, anybody who addresses her has to call her Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is on the list. And we saw that recently in the Harper's Bazaar interview when nobody is in the building and she is still introduced to the reporter as Duchess of Sussex. Sure. I mean, is that unbelievable to be on her wish list? Of course not, because just a few short months ago, we already have this documented in a very reputable publication, Harper's Bazaar, by a very reputable journalist. Sorry, it looks like she's done this already. Furthermore, last year at the Invictus Games in Canada, the executive director of the Invictus Games, so this story is not unnamed sources or some random staff member who may have misinterpreted. It was the executive director of the Invictus Games, gave an interview in which he said that Harry and Nutmeg said they were to be called sir and ma'am by the Invictus staff. So this isn't even just hotel staff. This isn't even just sort of, random people who might not have any interaction with them. We're talking about the games they are allegedly there to support. The people involved with that charity were told to call them sir and ma'am. Does anybody have a hard time believing that she is now pushing for Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex? I would say no. I have no trouble believing that this was indeed a demand she made. So let's take a look at what is next on our list, because now we're getting into the arena of security. They want drivers 24/7. They want security everywhere she goes. They want armed security. I forgot that. See, here in the United States, security implies armed security, especially when it's being handled by law enforcement. But I do understand, no offense to our friends in the UK, I don't get it at all. But there is a difference in the UK between the police and armed police, which to my mind is utterly redundant. Unarmed police seems like an oxymoron to me. But yes, we want armed police 24/7. We want police escort from the airport directly to the hotel. We want extra security at the hotel. And we want luxury cars. I'm not sure what that means, but I am assuming it means those massive SUVs or Hummers that are equipped with all the conveniences of a Rolls Royce, along with roll bars and heaven only knows what else you might need for your mythical high-speed car chases. But so I would say there's no question in my mind that that is on her wish list. After all, the sock puppet has been fighting to get this for the last 5 freaking years. Remember his lawsuit with the British government to get that security reinstated began in 2020, and it has been ongoing ever since. And so you can't even tease apart how many separate cases this is, because it's kind of one case broken down to a wide number of appeals, and it's a 5-year-long lawsuit demanding exactly this. So yeah, craziness. And that leads us into the next gimme on the list, which is bulletproof glass at the Invictus Games. This is one that had me really shaking my head, because King Charles and Queen Camilla go out among the people with no bulletproof glass. They shake hands. Charles hugs and kisses people. I don't know if Camilla does that. I don't think I've seen pictures of her doing that, but Charles does. The late Queen went out among the masses. She did not hug and kiss people, but nevertheless, she touched them. She was not afraid to touch the peasants. She was not afraid to have peasant germs near her. She did not feel the need to hide behind bulletproof glass. Now, I do have to say there is a precedent for this, because I'm sure we've all seen the Pope Mobile with the panels of bulletproof glass after one of the popes, somebody took a shot at one of the popes. I get that, because this is someone who is the head of a religion, and therefore, in the minds of people, particularly people who do not adhere to the same faith, he might be considered politically charged or divisive, even though he's a religious figure. Nevertheless, he is a head of state, given the fact that the Vatican City is its own little country, small, but it is its own little nation. So I get that. Unless Nutmeg is now getting religious delusions, I do not understand why she would need the same level of protection the Pope might need, but apparently she does. Let me also throw this out, because Princess Anne does not feel she needs bulletproof glass. And she was the victim of an attempted kidnapping. This 50 years ago. I remember it. I am old enough to have clear memories from 50 years ago. And in that attempted kidnapping, 4 people were shot. So we're not talking somebody said, "Come with me," and she said, "Not bloody likely," and they took off with their tails between their legs, which frankly, I would have done if she said that to me. Oh no, gunfire. So we are talking a woman who survived what anyone would have to consider a harrowing ordeal. She's not looking for bulletproof glass. By the way, she's not looking for 24/7 security either, because as I'm sure we will all recall, about a year ago, Anne had that accident where she was supposedly, possibly, it's speculated that she was kicked by a horse. You know why we have to be careful about that? Because nobody knows if she was actually kicked by a horse, because she was alone, because she doesn't have 24/7 security. That's how she could have fallen, lost consciousness, and nobody knows exactly what happened. So if there's anybody left in this world who doesn't believe that Anne does not have constant security, I would just refer them to that incident as positive proof. No, this is just, the bulletproof glass thing is over the top. Do I believe it was on Nutmeg's wish list? Sure, no problem. The Pope's got it, and by golly, she should have it too. Pardon my brief interruption there. Allergy season, I had to blow my nose. So, finally on our list is she wants to bring her own personal chef, her own assistant, her own coterie of makeup and wardrobe and hairstyling people, and she wants at least 4 separate rooms for her PR staff. So she intends to go with a whole posse. Do I find that hard to believe as something on her wish list? Absolutely not. And none of us should. You know why? Because when she and Harry made that Australia tour, guess who came with her? Jessica Mulrooney, her bestie / personal stylist. Her hairdresser came along. She had an entire staff of communication people, and these were supplied by the palace. Still, it seemed a little excessive at the time to the people who noticed and commented on it. So, yeah. Oh, and by the way, I should mention that the photos that I'm showing you of the Australia tour, that red dress that she was in, yeah, that's the red dress with the price tag, just in case you needed a reminder of that. Also, that little Australian child looks like he is backing away from her in fear for his life. This is not a woman who does well with little kids. Just an observation. So do I think that was on her wish list? Of course. It was on her wish list when she went to Australia. And remember, she was surprised she didn't get paid for that. So I guess in summation, let me say that I don't have any trouble at all believing that this was Nutmeg's wish list. None. Even though I personally find the demands to be over the top, I do not think in her little universe that it's anything less than she is entitled to. After all, she's the Duchess of Sussex, as everybody is going to be reminded, assuming she shows up at the Invictus Games. And keep in mind, her position at the Invictus Games is nothing more than the sock puppets +1. She has no connection with the games. She is no longer a working royal. This would just be Nutmeg, pretty much as private American, it's good, let's not forget that, private American citizen showing up as the companion of the sock puppet. So I would have to say that what we need to think about when we look at this list of demands is not just, is she the one behind this list of demands, but who are the demands being presented to? Who's expected to pay for this? Are these demands she is making in the hope that they will be met, or are they demands she is making in the hope that whoever she is making the demands of will say, nuh-uh, and then she can say, well, I tried. They just wouldn't meet my demands, and not show up and make it somebody else's fault. I don't know. But I do have to say that whether or not she made the demands, what I know about her as a public persona absolutely leads me to believe she is capable of making a list like that, that's even minor compared to what I imagine she would really like. So, am I taking this as a serious story? I'm not sure. I'm not discounting it, not by any stretch of the imagination. Am I expecting some blowback now that it's out in the general public sphere? Am I expecting her to get mercilessly mocked for it? Sure. Am I expecting her to deny it? Sure. Would I be surprised if the sock puppet fought for this on behalf of his darling wife? Not at all. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you for being with us. I hope to see you all again next time. We're going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out I think we are going to look at Princess Anne, a woman who is not afraid to live her life without bulletproof glass. So, until next time, have a terrific day.